Hi all, so excited to have you here. We are going to learn the Tunisian box stitch. Now, if it looks familiar to a stitch you know and probably love dearly in regular crochet, perfect, because I went down a rabbit hole looking for a Tunisian waffle stitch. There is one, but it does not look like the waffle stitch that we know and love in traditional crochet. So I came up with this with a combination of Tunisian simple stitch, front post Tunisian crochet, and back post Tunisian crochet. And if you are not familiar with those stitches, we are going to learn together. I am using Eco Cozy by Loops and Threads. It's now discontinued and I wish they brought it back. This is actually 100% recycled polyester made from plastic bottles. Like, what? Isn't this amazing? It's like a roving yarn. It does catch like your typical roving yarns, but this is super awesome. And this is considered a number 5 bulky. This sample I actually made using my aluminum Tunisian interchangeable set. This is the 10 millimeter. I know it's kind of hard to see. There we go. And for this one, I'm actually gonna go bigger. So this is 11 and a half. This is a size P. This is from my Likey interchangeable Tunisian set. So for comparison, 10 versus 11 and a half. Do you see that? Okay, so I'm going way up in size to make it even easier, and they actually recommend for this yarn, to use a 6.5, which is why I went to a 10, because Tunisian stitches can pull. In the nature of doing the front post and back post, bigger is just better. So I'll have to experiment with like worsted weight and thinner and still using large hooks, but I really do love the texture. Like, can you see that? Get a little bit of ridge. Looks like it'll be perfect for holding some syrup if we were calling this the waffle stitch, but I didn't want to create confusion. But anyways, I'm going to continue with this yarn, which is I've pulled it off to the side. I'll show you a little trick on how I do that. Let me move this out of the way and let's get to it. Okay, so I'm kind of weird. I don't like cutting yarn when I'm doing tutorials sometimes or practicing stitches in case I want to use this, because I only have a few balls of this yarn and I bought it to make a top years ago. And rather than cutting, this is like what I do if I'm doing multiple stitches to kind of figure out like what I want to do. I literally will make the little pull through like we're fastening it off. Then I put a stitch marker so it doesn't unravel, right? It doesn't have to be that big. And then I just pull some yarn out. This is the downside of roving yarn. It likes to stick to each other. But I pull some yarn out, that way it's out of the way, and then I just find a spot to make my slip knot as usual. Okay, so for this stitch, you need a multiple of 3. And typically we think 3, I think the regular waffle stitch is 3 plus 2. And I tried it and I didn't like it. And really a multiple of 3 worked out really, really well. So let's do 18, because that's a multiple of 3. Okay, let's make sure we have 18, because this is so much bigger than this. Look at that. It makes a difference. 1.5 millimeter difference from a 10 to 11.5. What? But I think this is going to be great for demonstration purposes. I could make it smaller, but honestly, I think more is better to give you an opportunity to practice. You do not have to use a bulky weight, but if you are practicing with a worsted weight, I would definitely shoot for an 8 millimeter, if not maybe a 10 millimeter if you have it. And if you do not have an interchangeable Tunisian, you can absolutely use a straight Tunisian hook. Or if you have a straight hook, you can just do a smaller multiple of 3. But okay, so we're going to make sure that we have 18. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Ah, there we go. And I did pick the shortest cable, because in Tunisian you need the cable to hold the loops, and it can be shorter than the project, but it's actually longer because they can squish, and your hook only needs to be at least a third. I may have that backwards. I can't remember. There was a rule I learned years ago, and it's like, oh, sweet. Anyways, we are going to start with row 1 is a row of Tunisian simple stitch. So if you are new to Tunisian and you're jumping in something advanced, kudos to you. But we're going to start out by inserting our hook. Now, you can go into the chain this way. I always like working in the back bump because it creates a really neat edging. And I do pull the yarn a little bit so it's closer to the hook, as what is common with Tunisian is for this first loop to loosen. So sometimes after making one, I will pull it so that it's more consistent with the rest of the loops. But we're just going to repeat this across. We're going to insert our hook into the next chain, yarn over, pull up a loop. Insert our hook into the next chain, yarn over, pull up a loop. And just continue all the way to the end, and you should have 18 loops on your hook once you are done. All right. So before we proceed, let's make sure that we have enough loops. Okay, I guess it's just going to hang out there. So we started with 18, and with Tunisian, the first loop on the hook always counts towards the first stitch. But we did 18 chains, so we should have 18 loops because we did not increase or decrease. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Wonderful. And now for the return pass. The return pass, we're doing standard throughout this entire tutorial. Every once in a while, you will have Tunisian stitches that require a different return pass because maybe you're making a shell or you're making decreases. So we will yarn over and pull through one loop. I always write this as a chain 1 because it literally is like making a chain 1 in standard crochet. And now we're going to do the same thing all the way to the end. We're going to yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. All right. So now we have our first row of Tunisian simple stitch. Okay. This is where the fun begins, okay? Moving on to row 2. So if you are not familiar with a front post Tunisian crochet, it sounds exactly like what it is. Much like in standard crochet is where we insert our hook from front to back to front, right? Or is it back to front to back? I know it when I do it versus talking about it. So, let's see, front post, back to front. No. Yes, front to back to front. There we go. Front post versus back post is back to front to back. There we go. And this is why I'm using such a large hook, right? Do you see? It's so much easier to see the space between each vertical bar. So a little quick anatomy, okay? Let me use a smaller hook so it's easier. Okay, this is the vertical bar in Tunisian crochet. This is the chain between. That's that yarn over and pull through 2. This is the front of the vertical bar. This is the back, okay? So when following along, if you are looking at the written instructions, I'm going to say work a front post Tunisian crochet around the front, around the next front and back vertical bars, meaning this, right? You see the 2 loops, this part here. And when you're doing your back post, you're working around both of those, not here. When you do a Tunisian simple stitch, you just go this way, right? On the front side. A reverse stitch, you're working from the back, okay? So just a quick little tutorial for you. All right, now we're gonna get started. This one here, we always skip that vertical bar. Unless the instructions say to work in it, you're going to skip it, okay? You're gonna kind of act like it's not there. So we're actually going to jump right into a front post Tunisian crochet. So with the loop on your hook, you're going to take your hook, insert your hook front to back to front, right? Behind the vertical bar or bars. to be more accurate, right? I'm going to go ahead and tighten that loop so it's not too loose. We're going to yarn over, pull up a loop. Ta-da! That's it. That's all there is to the front post Tunisian crochet. Now, this is where it gets a little wonky, and it is worth the practice. And again, you can make like a super tiny swatch to practice. I would say like at least 6. Now we're going to back post Tunisian crochet. So with that, we usually have our yarn to the front. You want to make sure your yarn is to the back. The first one is harder, right? We normally would hold it, but I find it easier to actually drop the yarn, but to the back. That way I can use my fingers. You kind of want to pull the stitches apart so you can really see. Now insert your hook back to front to back. So that's the vertical bars, right? The front and the back vertical bars. Yarn over and pull up a loop. Now, this feels funky and you may want to kind of angle and pull or kind of twirl it up, bring the hook up in order to keep the loop on the hook, because if not, it's really easy to accidentally pull it through. And if you do accidentally pull it through, that is okay. Just slide it off, right? Put it back where it's supposed to be on the hook. Now, that was the first back post double crochet. The yarn is now to the back. Let's do the second one, right? Because we're back post Tunisian crochet around the next 2 vertical bars, okay? So again, insert your hook back to front, right? It's coming through that way to the back, all right? So you want to make sure you see those 2 loops on the back. Yarn over and pull. You see how like you could just do that, and that's what I mean of like twist your hook up to bring that loop up. And now we have 2 back post Tunisian crochet. This is the front post. Now we're going to make a front post. So the yarn, yes, you may want to bring it to the front, but it's okay to leave it where it is. But make sure you insert your hook front to back to front around the next vertical bar. Yarn over, pull up a loop. And that's all there is to it. So let's do that again. Now the repeat, because it's front post followed by 2 back posts. And this is why it helps, if you need to, drop that yarn to the back. That way you see the spaces between the vertical bars. Okay, insert your hook back to front to back, yarn over, pull up a loop for your back post. Make another back post Tunisian crochet, back to front to back, yarn over, pull up a loop. Now front post Tunisian crochet, front to front, yarn over, pull up a loop. All right, so let's continue the row, and then we'll do the return pass, which is standard, but I'll still get you started. All right, and when you get to the end, you're going to make a front post Tunisian crochet. Yeah, so after you make your last back post Tunisian crochet, you're going to do 1 more front post Tunisian crochet, and then work your end stitch. And the end stitch, rather than just working under 1 loop like a Tunisian simple stitch, it helps to look at the end and you see both loops, like the top of a regular, like a chain or a regular standard stitch. You want to make sure you go under both loops, yarn over, pull up a loop. Okay, so we should still have 18 loops. Okay, and it does kind of squish in, but it gets better as the fabric grows. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Spot on. That's what we're looking for. You realize that hook was all in the way. Okay, anyways, back to the return pass. And I do try to keep this one a little looser so that it aligns with this side, because sometimes you can kind of see it here. This angles a little bit because these stitches pulled a bit more than these, but this is why blocking is our friend. When we are done, in case the shape is not as symmetrical as we thought it would be. So we're going to make our chain 1. Sorry, let's do that again. All right, so we're going to chain 1 or yarn over, pull through 1 loop, yarn over and pull through 2. And we're just going to do that all the way across. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Alrighty, so this is what we have so far. Let me pull out some more yarn as my yarn ballet slides. Okay, so here we are. I know this tutorial is getting long, y'all, but trust me, it is worth taking our time because I know these stitches are not as common. So now we have our first row. We have our back post. That's these stitches here, right? That's here and here. Those are the back posts. This is our front post, okay? Back post, front post, back post, front post. All right, so now we're going to do 2 rows of just front post Tunisian crochet with 2 Tunisian simple crochets. So we're going to start out with our front post, again, front to back to front, yarn over, pull up a loop. Again, we're skipping that first one, and if you need to adjust those loops, go ahead and do so. And now we're just going to do Tunisian simple stitch, insert left to right. And if you're left-handed, you go left to right instead of right to left. Just like so, Tunisian simple stitch, front post Tunisian crochet, Tunisian simple stitch, Tunisian simple stitch. And so the difference is, right, we got the front and the back of the vertical bar. We're just going under the front. Yarn over, pull up a loop, and then just repeat. Front post followed by Tunisian simple stitch. 2 Tunisian simple stitches. Don't forget, always work your end stitch. Go under both loops. Now make your return pass and then repeat that row. Front post Tunisian crochet followed by 2 Tunisian simple crochets. And we'll come back together to do the next row with the front post and back post Tunisian crochet. All right, so what do you think so far? Do you see the start of it? So if you want this to be more pronounced along the bottom, you could do 2 rows of Tunisian simple stitch before you do your first row with the front post and back post. That way it is just more distinctive. Or I maybe kind of thinking on the fly, y'all. Maybe to actually do 1 row Tunisian simple stitch, then do the front post, and then 2 Tunisian simple stitch. That way you get a little bit more of an edge. It's there, but if you wanted to be more pronounced, that is one way that you could modify that. So this is what we have so far. We have our 2 rows of Tunisian simple stitch and 1 row with the front post and back post. And now we're just going to repeat, right? This is such a straightforward pattern. It may seem complicated because these stitches aren't as common, the front post and back post Tunisian crochet, compared to like front post, back post Tunisian double crochet. But yeah, let's just do this. Let's get started again together. So we're going to front post Tunisian crochet. Again, drop the yarn to the back so you can insert your hook back to front to back around the next vertical bar. Yarn over, pull up a loop, and again, it does help to kind of hook and twist it up, and then make another back post Tunisian crochet, and then we're off and running. Front post and then 2 back posts. And it does take practice to kind of figure out where you want to put your hands, your fingers, the hook, all of that, but that's why we're practicing together. And there you have it. Now we have completed our first box. You see? Boop, 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 boop. Okay, sorry for the sound effects. But we do have our boxes. We have our lovely boxes right here. And again, the first one, not as distinct as in the middle, but you know, that's why I call it a box stitch instead of a waffle stitch. So now we're going to just continue with the repeat 2 rows with front post and Tunisian simple stitch, and then you go back to the back post. So make a few more rows, and then we'll come back together after we've done it at least 1 or 2 more times, and then I'll show you the bind off. It's really straightforward, standard bind off. And yeah, we're almost there. All right, so what do y'all think? I hope you're loving this as much as I am. I already have ideas of how to play with color with this stitch. I think the Tunisian box stitch can be used for so many different things. Off to the bind off. Again, if you have a preference for how you bind off, please absolutely do that. Typically, I do a chain one, but I feel like this just looked so much neater without the chain one along the top. So really straightforward. Rather than chain one, we're just going to slip stitch across just like that, right? We're going to insert our hook. Oh, before I get too far, hold on. I forgot to mention that we want to stop after we've completed a repeat of row 2, which is the row of front post and back post, right? So this is a nice way to kind of like close off the box at the top. So if you did more, that's okay. If you want to frog back to a row with the back post, you can, but insert your hook just like a Tunisian simple stitch, yarn over, pull through the vertical bar and the loop on the hook, and just repeat that across. And this is a slip stitch bind off. So I hope you have enjoyed this tutorial. This is kind of like a 3-in-1. We started, because in order to make the box stitch, you need to know the front post Tunisian crochet, the back post Tunisian crochet, and the Tunisian simple stitch. So it's only 3 stitches, but really 2 were new to me. And I wonder if they're new to you too. And if so, definitely tell me below down in the comments if the front post and back post Tunisian crochet is new to you, and how do you think you're going to use it now that you know it? Because that's the whole point. If we're adding to our stitch toolbox, so to speak, that means we got to use it in new projects. There we go. And as always, at the end, go under both loops. It just makes it so much neater. And there you have it. We have the box stitch. And you see how much more relaxed that is? Like, oh my gosh. Do you see that? Hold on. Sorry, the light changed. Ah! I think it's the hook. Making everything look blue. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think it's the hook. Making things look blue. But anyways, you see how much more relaxed this is by going up in hook size. Again, this is a 10mm, which is not small by any means compared to 11.5. World of difference. Like this so much better. So remember, when you practice, go up in hook size, up, 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 right? Consider going up 3, maybe even 4 sizes if you have a hook that big. So I will see y'all soon. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, as well as the bell for notifications for when I post new tutorials, unboxings, and crocheting with me. Yeah, keep stitching.